Someone is standing at a podium right now, in a version of the future you cannot see. They clear their throat, they unfold a piece of paper, and in a few seconds, they are going to describe you, using only the things you left behind. Not your salary, not your followers, not the version of yourself you post online, just what remains after everything else is stripped away. But the strange part is not the eulogy itself. The strange part is that you are writing it right now, one ordinary Tuesday at a time, without realizing it. Think about the last funeral you attended, or watched in a film, or imagined. What did people actually say? Almost never do they mention job titles. Almost never do they mention the car someone drove or the size of their house. They talk about how a person made them feel. They talk about a joke someone always told, a specific kindness on a specific day, the way someone listened or didn't. Why does the eulogy version of a person look so different from the version we spend our whole lives building? Psychologist and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl spent years studying what actually gives a life meaning, and his answer was almost never about achievement. It was about the quality of a person's relationships, their capacity to endure suffering with dignity, and the small acts of love and creativity they left scattered behind them. Frankl noticed something uncomfortable. Most people spend decades chasing things that will never make it into their own eulogy. There's a reason for this gap, and it has to do with how your brain measures time. Psychologists call it temporal discounting. Your brain treats future rewards as smaller and less real than immediate ones, even when the future reward matters infinitely more. A promotion next month feels vivid and urgent. Being remembered as kind decades from now by people who are not even born yet barely registers as real. Your brain was built for a world of immediate threats and immediate food, not for weighing a lifetime against a single afternoon. So it optimizes for the afternoon, every time, unless you interrupt it on purpose. Here is where it gets stranger. In the 1930s, philosopher and psychologist William James described something he called the two selves problem. There is the self who is living inside the current moment, worried about a meeting, a deadline, an argument. And there is the self who exists in your imagination, standing outside your entire life, judging it as a whole, the way a biographer would. James argued that most people almost never let that second self speak. It gets drowned out by the noise of the first one. Funerals, strangely, are one of the only moments where that second self is finally allowed into the room. Grief clears out all the noise. Suddenly, nobody cares what car you drove. They care whether you called your mother back. They care whether you showed up. They care whether you made the people around you feel smaller or larger. Researcher and psychologist Laura Carstensen studied this shift directly, though not through death. She studied age. In her research on what's known as socio-emotional selectivity theory, she found that as people become more aware of limited time, whether through age, illness, or major life events, their priorities shift almost instantly. Status-driven goals fade. Emotionally meaningful goals rise to the top. People stop optimizing for the resume version of their life and start optimizing for the eulogy version. The tragedy, Carstensen's work suggests, is that most people only make this shift when time is already running out, instead of making it earlier on purpose. So what would it look like to skip the waiting? Some researchers have actually tried to answer this directly. In studies on what's sometimes called the deathbed perspective, people are asked to imagine themselves at the very end of life, looking back, and to describe their biggest regrets. The results are almost eerily consistent. Nobody says they wish they had worked more weekends. Nobody says they wish they had checked their phone more often. The regrets are almost always about disconnection, relationships they let quietly die, feelings they never said out loud, time they assumed they would have later. This is not really a story about death. It is a story about attention. Every day you are handing out tiny deposits into an account that someone else will eventually read from, whether you intend to or not. A text you didn't answer. A moment you chose to actually listen instead of half listening. Small currencies most people never notice they're spending. There is something almost mathematical about it, if you think about it long enough. A A eulogy is not a summary of your best day. It is an average. It is built from hundreds of ordinary interactions stacked on top of each other, most of which you will never remember individually. The version of you that gets described at the end is not the highlight reel. It is the pattern. And patterns are built quietly. Nobody decides in one dramatic moment to become generous or bitter or dependable or absent. It happens in the accumulation of small choices, repeated so often they stop feeling like choices at all. This is actually good news, even though it might not feel like it at first. If the eulogy is built from a pattern, then the pattern can still shift. Today, not someday, not after the next milestone. The person standing at that future podium is not describing someone fixed and finished. They are describing someone who was built, piece by piece, out of ordinary days that felt too small to matter at the time. So here is the strange, quiet exercise underneath all of this. Imagine the room. Imagine the people standing near the front, the ones who knew you best. Imagine what they would actually say if they were being completely honest, not about your job, not about your achievements, but about how it felt to be near you. Would they mention your patience, your temper? The times you showed up unannounced just because someone needed you, the times you didn't? You do not get to write that eulogy directly, but you are, without question, writing the material it will be built from, one Tuesday at a time. Someone is standing at a podium in a future you cannot see. They clear their throat. They unfold a piece of paper. And whatever they are about to say about you has already begun being written, quietly, today, in the version of you that is choosing, right now, how to spend the next 5 minutes.